Good morning, everyone. From Whispers from Eternity, Paramahansa Yogananda's prayer poems, I chose today a poem that was intended for prayer demands for the children. And so this one is for each one of your inner child. And it says, teach me to give smiles to all. Father divine, teach me to smile always. Teach me not to laugh at anyone. Teach me to laugh kindly with them. Teach me to never hurt anyone, even with a false smile. And bless me with the grace to make others happy, just as I wish to be happy myself. And so a little girl named Emma, she was 6 years old. She was asked the question by our guru, by Erin, in a workshop she just held. And the question was, what is love? And Emma said, love is when you're missing some of your teeth and you're not afraid to smile, because you know your friends will love you, even though some of you is missing. And so if intuition is the soul's power of knowing God, and that knowing comes when we return back to that childlike essence within us, that little boy, that little girl who knows how to be natural, knows how to open our hearts and be real and free and truthful. You know, the innocence of that little girl, just really trusting that she will be loved, even though there's a part of her that may be missing. And for each one of us, you know, we're trying to be our true self to the best of our ability. And a big part of it is understanding that we must come back to that little innocent child within us, that little boy that knows how to play, that little girl who remembers spontaneity and creativity. You know, when I was preparing, I thought about the little girl that I would walk outside of my house in Pawtucket in the mornings, and, you know, the fresh summer air. And I would just, there was no agenda. I just was like, you know, what's going to happen, you know? And then the brackets, you know, after they tarred our street, they left a beautiful puddle for the brackets. And so I would go over there and I would draw in the puddle and make these beautiful drawings. And then I'd say, oh, let me go check on the grasshoppers. And I go into my yard and I'd catch some grasshoppers and I put them in my Fisher Price school and put them into school for the day. And then I maybe, I don't know, I might just lay down and be, or I might take my rabbit out of the hutch, because Princess was really great at being too. And I'd look for 4-leaf clovers from my mom, and the bunny would be chewing them up too at the same time. And, you know, it was just this sense of aliveness, right? Of beingness, of allowing nature to come through it and to allow our true spirit to shine through. And these are all moments we've all had in our lives. And then, you know, as we get older, you know, we're called to more responsibilities. Our intellect is really gets more support than our intuition. And we have to start thinking about deadlines and homework assignments and school process and getting things done. And we're in a conditional world, right? Where our unconditional natural self sometimes had to go kind of dormant, asleep, as we, you know, allow that intellect, that true self our mind had to think about things more, and it had to plan things, it had to schedule things. And so that natural unfolding of the day, oftentimes, good morning, you know, it left us. And so what happens is, you know, through mind and the responsibilities in school, we lost ourselves. But the reading today is about coming back to that natural childlike self. It's coming full circle in our life. And so in the reading today in the Bhagavad Gita, you know, Krishna is saying, let go of that carping spirit that we developed that took over our natural true essence. We all must become children again to enter that kingdom of heaven. Verily, I say unto you, whoever shall not receive the kingdom of God as a little child shall not enter. This is our job, to purify our hearts and soul and return to that true nature within, and use the intellect to do it. It's not like we have to let that go. Our highest capacity of the mind is to bring us into holy presence where the child lives. It's to hold us there. It's to be that sentry. And so this carping spirit is, I didn't know what it was, but it's a complaining spirit, really. And it's that spirit that says, oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, but I have to do this. Or that person, Kelly did a great Sunday service, but it was kind of boring at the end, It's like, there's a but in things, and the carping spirit has judgment and control. We don't really realize it because we think, well, you know what, though I have good judgment and it's important to, help things get along and be on schedule. And yet these are the ways that we squash our joy that Annie talked about. We squash our creative, intuitive self. That is the self that prepares us to leave this physical plane, this human experience, and rise up into our superconscious, self-realized true self. And so our job in the Gita is to let go of it. Krishna is saying to Arjuna, it is the secret to let go of this carping spirit. He says in the reading, we are free of the carping spirit. You are free, Arjuna, of this carping spirit. I shall now reveal wisdom sublime. Grasping it with your mind and perceiving it with your intuitive realization, you shall escape the evils of delusion. Krishna is telling us here the secret of how to get free, how to return, and to be in tune, right? Intuition is being in tune. It is, knowing the soul's power of God. It's letting everything else go aside, right? And so this mind, that comes into us that starts judging and controlling, we need to be able to have the awareness to bring ourselves back into loving presence and check in during the day. Am I at peace? Am I connected? Do I feel like I'm in my childlike self? And if not, to have the courage to go into that emotion that may be blocking these energy centers within our body. There's a story of two monks, two renunciates. And these renunciates, they take this vow to serve God with all their heart, with all their mind, with all their soul, and all their strength, and everything else, they put to the side, and they put that one pointed focus as a brahmacharya. And so these two monks were walking to a temple one day in India, and it was the rainy season, and the floods were happening, and there was a woman at the side of the river. And, she couldn't get across. So the first monk, he picked her up and he put her to the other side, and he put her down, and they continued walking towards their destination, the temple. And about 3 hours into that walk, monks, we took vows here. What did you do? Picking up that woman was against all the rules. You didn't use good judgment. This was very wrong of you. This was not a good choice that you made. And the first monk said, I put that woman down 3 hours ago. Are you still carrying her? And this is what we do, right? We carry with us stories. We carry with us resentments. People have hurt us. People have done things that their ego, their unconscious self took over, and it's hard sometimes to forgive, and it's hard to not let that story keep going around. But if we really understood that story refuels our ego, and it blocks this intuitive channel within us, and we're no longer accessing the truth of who we are. And that intuitive channel needs to be loved. It needs to be purified. I went to Egypt. I just got back from an incredible trip in Egypt, and it started out, my friend Colleen was like, do you want to go to Egypt? I'm like, yes. And that was it, and it felt like, Swami Kriyananda talks about when you have intuition, it's just a calm clarity, a knowing, and there's a joy to it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going, I'll make it happen. When is it? Send me the information. Colleen's like, okay, she's kind of used to me. And so, in this experience of going to Egypt, something I hadn't even imagined. I had just said yes, but some extraordinary experience opened up to me. And I have a beautiful friend in Gurubai, I think is probably on today, Carol, and she had the intuitive insight to give me a little journal because I had a big one. I was like, I can't carry that in my little suitcase. And it really helped me to bring into perspective and to keep that intuition going throughout my process. And, when I was a little girl, I grew up in a beautiful Catholic experience. For the most part, I really, loved to experience God. There were some difficulties and some ways that I was taught that was hard to hear, but my mother really loved God, and she really, made God very approachable to me. But then when I was in third grade, we got to choose a project. And the project I chose was the Rosetta Stone. And the Rosetta Stone is the alphabet from Egypt. And all of a sudden, this world of Egypt opened up to me. And they're talking about, how to prepare for the afterlife. They're talking about this incredible energy that comes from gods and goddesses. And, it was incredible how, the colors and the stories and preparing for the afterlife and reincarnation. And my teacher said to me, Kelly, go out into the schoolyard and find your Rosetta Stone. And I was like, in the schoolyard by myself, right? And so I went outside, and I'd never seen the schoolyard emptied before. And I searched and searched, and I felt though this independence, this wonder of being able to be independent and find this for myself and be a big girl, and I found the exact rock because I saw it in Egypt. It looked exactly the same. And I wrote every day, the alphabet of the Rosetta Stone. And I was introduced to a very magical world of Egypt, of ancient architecture, of ancient technology, ancient yoga science. Truly, it really was. And I remember writing in my journal that this is all the same, right? And then when I was in high school, I was really getting bored, but my mom sent me to St. Ray's. I was very lucky to be able to do that. And I was introduced to Greek mythology, right? And this great adventure, right? This great journey of the Iliad and the Odyssey, and all these ways and expansive and creative ways of understanding the spiritual journey, and how to go through it, and how to keep persevering and finding, and calling on God in these difficult times, and calling on the gods and goddesses. And then it really helped me to really get excited about learning in literature and school. And then little by little, through my carping spirit, I got into therapy with my great teacher, Helene. And, yoga and meditation was introduced to me, and the great yoga science of Kriya, of all this lineage of how to transform the physical to the metaphysical, to rise beyond ego into self-realization. And I had this beautiful guide in India. His name was Michael. And I said to him one night at dinner, I said, I really feel I've come full circle. And, from this child studying Egypt to here I am, and really understanding the essence of it. And that's what I had written in my journal. I really understood that there was an essence in it. And this beautiful teacher that we had, and that's what we're doing today in intuition. We're coming full circle, right? We're our child, how we lose ourselves, we disconnect, we get into the mind, we start to navigate from here up, we realize it doesn't work, we're not fulfilled, what's trying to happen here, why are we really here? And then we come back into our true self, and that full circle of life. And I told him one night, I'm realizing, since a little girl, that I've come full circle through this Egypt experience. And he said, that's what Egypt is. It's about full circle. And what's happening is, if we talk about in yoga, right, the yugas, right, that science of the yugas, and, you know, in building the pyramids, they were in the age of Dwapara, the age of light. They were in the beginning of learning and using this technology, this sacred geometry, this, you know, quantum physics. They were creating, it was amazing what they were creating and how they were drawing in the light from the universe, and how they dedicated so much of their life to the gods and goddesses. And every temple had 7 doorways, each one for a chakra. The importance of how to keep these energy centers open for intuition, to draw in that healing light within ourselves. And then they had all these little labs that they had where they made aromatherapy, and they had all the different written on the wall, all the formulas to make, you know, all these healing and all this sense that they took together, and they offered to all the goddesses and goddesses, and all this incredible ways of healing people and for ceremonial. And so, you know, we must come full circle in our life, and that's exactly what we're talking about here. And the wonder and the power, and our beautiful guide really understood that we were all thirsty souls in Egypt, and that we were really looking for an experience of knowing. And he paid off the armed guards so that we could meditate in these temples, and that we could really understand and feel those thousands and thousands of years of dedicating, you know, to the divine, to spirit, and to their way of divinely understanding spirit, and really understanding that it is all the same. There's so many different ways of doing it, but it all brings us back into that oneness. And one of the things that became profoundly focused on it was like almost like the light and the awareness through my meditations in these sacred places and temples and pyramids. Colleen and I got to meditate just alone in the Great Pyramid of Giza, you know, and just be there by ourselves, and that energy, and how, you know, how the formulas and the angles and how it all worked to create these incredible battery centers that could help people to just awaken to their highest potential. And when I was meditating in there, I became profoundly aware of how much I leave my love, my presence, and go into my carping spirit, my mind, and its judgment and control. You know, and I'm thinking, well, I'm trying to have good judgment. I'm trying to control to make sure the schedule's okay. And, you know, but that's not it. Judgment and control is a way, and that the ego takes us out of our true self, out of our center. And the awareness, it became so magnified, so enlightened in my awareness. And I just saw that, you know, this judgment and control, if I'm not in peace, and if I'm not in peace, my job is to respond inwardly, is to go into that, is to have the capacity to integrate those feelings through a willingness to allow them to move, and not build up into emotions that create blockages within my center, to always be attuned, right? Intuition, in tuned with my body self. Am I peace? Am I connected? If not, I'm in judgment and control. And then I looked at judgment and control, JC, right? You know, Christ, the answer is, the answer is in all these great gurus. They're always guiding us into these experiences, into these spiritual, you know, we weren't tourists in Egypt. We were pilgrims. We were always trying to connect with the essence of, and the spirit of, you know, what was trying to happen here all this time ago. And it was, you know, in this circle of the yugas, we're right on the other side of it, right? We're in ascending Dwapara yoga. We're remembering our capacity to bring light into every situation, to awaken how to use sound and healing and light to elevate our consciousness. And that's exactly where they were, just on the other side of it, right? And all of us are going in this full circle of the ages, an age of awakening. And our job is self-realization, is to become that true self. So Swami confirmed this. I realized, JC, the answer is in the problem, right? If I'm having judgment and control, call on the divine, come back into presence. And Swami said about intuition, he said, to develop intuition, we develop the super consciousness, right? And then we see that problem and solution are one, as if the solution was a natural outgrowth of the problem, right? We all just keep bringing it back. All of it is one, all of it's coming back to one. Awareness of our inner subconsciousness, awareness of our subconsciousness and bringing it into super consciousness, awareness of our tamasic qualities, those deflating qualities. When we get into that carping spirit, those negative Eeyore, we'll never make it, poo, it's that. But then we get into, we can see that sattvic, we trying to be like, let me lift this up. I know this person or this situation was really unkind and I feel resentment. But I try to lift it up. How can I see this? How can I act more kindly? How can I learn from this? How can I grow? But there's something more. We're here to rise above the sattvic qualities. And when that happens, we become the I am. We are the grace. We are the love. We are the truth and the light. And that's what we're called to do today, to rise above it. And when we fully live with our intuition, our mind's holding us there. So our intellect is important. But when we hold that, as all the masters do, we become perfect radios. We are able to tune in to what is there, what's beyond that veil. I don't want to just be kind. I am the kindness. I don't want to just act nice. I want to be the peace. I want that. I want that for all of us. And that's what we're called today. And that's what happens when we really refine this capacity to be our intuition and to really keep this inner channel clear, right? Those 7 doorways of each one of those temples was all honoring that we have to each day go through each one of those doorways. Is there any non-peace there? Is there anything blocking me from living in the I am presence? And so that's what the masters teach us. They teach us that awareness to respond inwardly through presence. And, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but Master was a master gardener, right? And he came to his guru's ashram in Puri on his college vacation with amazing, Bill, he was a gardener like you. He had 6 beautiful, succulent cauliflowers. He was so joyful to bring them to Sri Yukteswar. And Sri Yukteswar said, beautiful, let's save them for the banquet tomorrow. Put them in your room. So Yogananda went in his room and, he had this expansion, knowing he had the summer before him to be with his guru, to be with this ashram, to develop his intuitive space, to really draw in the guidance of the masters, because they lived from that place. They lived in the I am presence. They lived in the knowing. And so the next morning he woke up and he smelled the, if anyone's been to Puri, it's so beautiful there in that ashram. He smelled that beautiful fresh sea air and he was so excited about the day. And Sri Yukteswar said, we'll have our sadhana on the beach. And they walked down to the beach together. And Sri Yukteswar said to Yogananda, Mukunda, did you remember to lock the ashram door? Yeah, I think so, sir. You did not, and you will be punished. Yogananda, this is not how he was thinking his pilgrimages were going to be today, and so he waited, and Sri Yukteswar said, wait and see, this cauliflower, your prize cauliflower will be stolen, and take a look. And he saw that a crazy man was dancing through the street when Yogananda looked. And he said, what is happening here? This is almost crazy. And Sri Yukteswar said, now this man will he has a hankering for a cauliflower. Now this man will turn in one direction and go right into that ashram, into into the unlocked door of this ashram and find that cauliflower. And that's exactly what happened. And he was dancing with the cauliflower as he left the ashram. Yogananda was horrified. He was going to go run after him, but Sri Yukteswar began laughing. Always the teacher, right? Always the guru. And he said, that poor crazy man was hankering for a cauliflower. So I thought it would be good to give him one of yours. And Master said, what is this all about? And within a moment, he really he understood this power of intuition within his guru, that Sri Yukteswar is that human radio. You know, he was sending and receiving that whole time. And in order to teach his, Yogananda and the other students of yoga and this perfect radio perception, he was able to guide that man into the ashram to show him, the powers, and to show these, to teach, always using these moments of teaching to teach them that intuition is soul guidance. It's one of the most important parts to develop as a yogi. So intuition as soul guidance, it appears naturally, says Sri Yukteswar, in men when the mind is clear. And that's what we're called to do, is to keep that mind clear and look for those qualities, as Annie talked about, that joy, that sense of calmness, that sense of clarity within us. When we stop and go inside, and we have a problem and we ask, the question, we bring the question to the Agnya chakra right at the spiritual eye, and we ask for assistance. And we get into that calm energy, and we concentrate on that sending station that we all have within our mind and ask for guidance. What shall I do in this situation? And we wait for that response in the anahata. We wait for our heart to show us a green light, right? The green chakra, the green light, to wait for that knowing that this feels right for me. And then we feel divinely guided. And this practice, if we practice it, becomes a natural part of our meditation, but it also becomes a natural part of the yogi's life. And we're keep attuning over and over and over. So intuition returns us to our natural state, to that childlike being, helps us to not be afraid that we're still going to be loved, even though some of us is missing.